Today we're taking a look at a Canon PowerShot G1. They're still using the name PowerShot on this model, but in fact the G1 is basically the beginning of the G series of the Canon cameras, I believe. At any rate, it's a pretty cool camera given its date and obsolescence by today's standards. When these were new, they cost $1,100 in 2000. Right now, the value of one of these on eBay is about $15. This particular one, I would say, is in excellent condition. The only personal significance to this one is this is my neighbor's. He's selling it on eBay right now, and I had a chance to review it. So this is sort of a cross between a point and shoot and a prosumer camera. It takes a compact flash types 1 and 2. It also takes micro drive, which could fit in the compact flash slot, which are really obsolete. It has an infrared remote control is included with it. It has a really long battery life, a 3x zoom, which goes from the equivalents, 35mm equivalents of 34mm to 102mm. It has a macro mode with a minimum focus distance of 6 centimeters. It has a normal PSAM dial, which of course in Canon land, that's not PSA because the shutter priority is called TB for time value as opposed to aperture value for the other one, but that's Canon's way of doing things. In shutter priority mode, you can set the shutter speed from 8 seconds to 1/1000th of a second. And it does auto exposure bracketing as well, but it's only a 3-step auto bracket. For video, it only does 320 by 240, and it also can record audio clips in WAV format. It can support RAW, but when you see how many RAW pictures you can get on a CF Express card, you'll be impressed on how little it is. It has a 1.8 inch fully articulated viewing screen. It has video out, and it comes with an AC adapter and charger. DPReview says one odd feature of this camera is that it locks up to f8 at shutter speeds greater than 1/500th of a second. Kind of strange. So if we take a look at the top of the camera, we have this really nice display panel, and let me turn it on so you can see something on it. So it can display a lot of information. Right now we're in TB mode, time value, so it's the shutter speed that's important to it. And I can change the shutter speed with the left and right buttons here, so there's 1/25th of a second and so on. In aperture priority mode, we can change the aperture. It goes down to f2, and I suppose that's with me zoomed back. If I zoom forward, well, it still goes to f2. That's kind of nice. And there's manual mode. But at any rate, it's a nice screen. It displays all kinds of stuff. I'll show you a chart that was available on DPReview showing all of the stuff that can come up on the screen. Now, it has a regular Canon hot shoe, which will take the very sophisticated Canon flashes. Around the mode dial is what they call the main dial, this ring which goes from photo shooting mode, or shooting mode because it can do videos too, to off. And this is playback mode to watch videos or to look at pictures on the display screen that you've already taken. And then finally, that last setting on the right is for connecting to the PC with the USB cable. And it's a strange USB cable. And then the mode dial here, which we're already looking at, in addition to the shutter priority, aperture priority, manual, and P mode and auto, it also has a movie mode down there, and a stitch assist mode, a black and white mode, a night mode, a landscape mode, portrait mode, and what they call pan focus, which is this last one right there. And that has a fixed wide angle lens, and you can't change the focus or anything, and that's so that you can take pictures really quick. Here we have the shutter button, and surrounded the shutter button is the manual zoom control. I have to turn it back on to actually zoom. And when you zoom, it's fairly noisy, so if you were recording video and zooming, it would make a lot of noise and feedback. And then last on the top, we have this little button for the self timer or for continuous shooting. Right now it's in normal shooting, so if I took a picture, it used the flashes in fully automatic mode, and it took one picture. But if I push this button, now we're in self timer mode. So it's counting down. And there's an orange light on the back. And then finally, if you press it, I can't be in auto, I guess, when I do that. Let me go to P mode. Now we're in continuous shooting mode. So if we hold the button down, it's taking pictures. Okay, let me turn this back off so we can retract the lens. On the camera front, this window is for the infrared remote control, which looks like this. And you would have to point that at the camera and only can shoot from the front then. That's the optical viewfinder. There is no digital viewfinder through there, but of course you have the viewing screen on the back. This is the built-in flash. This is the red eye reduction lamp, and it also does emits a light to help with the focusing. These three little dots are the microphone, and of course we have the lens. It's 7 to 21 millimeter, which of course is not the 35 millimeter equivalents, which would be 34 to 102 in 35 millimeter equivalents. On the left side, we have a manual focus button. That's the speaker, and that's the audio video out. And you can hook it to a television or something, but it's just the basic cord, the audio and the video channel, which would be like black and white, I guess. And then we have this rubber cover. It's got a little dip in it so you can get your finger under it to open it. And that connector is just labeled digital, and that would be the cable for the USB port. But also they make a cable that connects to there that can go to a PC serial port, again, to connect to a computer. And this is a DC in port, and this camera can be powered by DC, and or you can charge the battery through that port. And in fact, I have charged the battery through it today. On the right side of the camera, we just have this strap eyelet and a compact flash card access hatch. So you pull this forward and it flips up, and there's a compact flash card. And this is an eject button for it. So this particular one has a 128 megabyte compact flash card. On the camera bottom, we have a 1/4-20 tripod socket. The serial number is there. And this is the battery compartment, and there's a switch to open it. So you have to push the switch a little bit, then you shove it to the right, and it opens, and we can take that battery out. This is a BP 511 battery, and according to DPReview, it runs this camera for a long, long time. Now, interestingly enough, there's another little battery hidden in here. It's your button battery for keeping the time and date right. And to get at that, there's this funny little plastic thing. You put your finger on it and pull hard, and you can pull it out and replace that battery. And this takes a CR2016 battery. So I'll put all this back together. And then it snaps in and sort of locks. Now on the back, we've got lots of stuff going on. First of all, we have a fully articulated LCD monitor. And this must be probably one of the first fully articulated LCD monitors because it's such a tiny little thing at 1.8 inches. But I have to say, I would never own a camera, a modern camera, without a fully articulated screen. It is just way too useful. It's good for, of course, shooting when you're low to the ground, like that, or high overhead, like that. And then also, if you're shooting it and you're in your own picture, you can see what's going on. Although this is such a small monitor, it certainly has limited value compared to modern cameras. This is the button to turn on the flash, and it actually cycles the flash between multiple settings, whether it's auto flash, constantly on, constantly off. You can just keep pressing it for the different flash settings when you're in picture taking mode. It's also the multi-display button for when you're in playback mode, for looking at multiple images on the screen and selecting one for playback. It has a little lever on a rotating thing here for the diopter setting for the optical viewfinder. And then just to the left of the viewfinder, we have some indicators. And they get kind of complicated, but when you're charging the battery in the camera, there's an orange indicator that comes on, and it's flashing orange while it's charging. And when it gets to 90% charge, it turns to solid orange. And then when it gets to a full charge on a battery, it turns green. At other times, that orange indicator will come on green and flash if the compact flash card is busy reading or writing, like when you're taking pictures. And this is a fairly slow camera. That light will be on frequently and last quite a while. Also, when you half press the shutter, it'll turn on green if you're focused, and it'll be on orange with the flashes turned on and ready. And also, it'll come on flashing orange if you're trying to take a picture in low light where you really should be on a tripod, and it's warning you about that. So then finally we have the optical viewfinder window, and in that window it's just optical. There's no indicators or anything to see in there. Next to that we have the spot metering button, and you press it to go into spot metering mode, and you press it again to go back to your average, center weighted average metering mode. It toggles back and forth. And also there's a magnifying lens indicator there, so when you're in playback mode, that's how you zoom in on your picture if you want to chimp it and see if your picture you just took is in good focus. To the right of that is the macro button, and that jumps you in and out of macro mode, which allows you to focus really close, and also sets the camera in a mode where it won't focus at a distance, and that's good for taking a picture. Stay out of macro mode so that when you're taking a picture through a window, it won't focus on the window, on the dirt on the window or anything like that. And then the one that's labeled jump is a little strange. It jumps when you're in playback mode from picture section to picture section, and when you're in the menus, you can jump around the menu from the playback menu to the setting menu and stuff like that. The four-way indicator here, or switch here, is called an omni selector, and you have up, down, left, right, and you can migrate your way through the menus with that. Finally, we have a set button, a menu button, The star button is for auto exposure lock, and also it's for the flash exposure lock, which is kind of confusing. And then there's a button here with 4 icons on it, and that can be the flash, the exposure compensation, the flash exposure compensation, the exposure bracketing button, and the white balance button. And again, you would be toggling those and visualizing on the screen here which one is selected. And finally, we have a display button, because when the articulated display is open and you're shooting, like we are now, it's not necessarily turned on, saving you power. In this case it is, but I can toggle it off. It's telling me to set the date and time because that little button battery is not a good battery, I guess. So we can turn the display off to save power and just use the optical viewfinder, even though it might be open because you were using it earlier. And again, the display button will turn the display back on. I'll turn this back off. The menus are kind of interesting. Let me leave it back on and hopefully the camera will pick this up. And since we're in photo shooting mode, if I hit the menu button, here under photo shooting, we can use this up-down arrow key to go to resolution, compression, file format, JPEG or RAW, set the ISO. Now, some of these settings will disappear depending on the mode you're in. You can turn the digital zoom on or off. It's not like a normal digital zoom. When you turn it on, it doesn't just do the optical zoom and then go into digital. It sort of permanently is a 2x zoom or a 4x zoom from whatever lens setting it's already on. It's kind of strange. The autofocusing mode is continuous or single. You can set the review time, so every time you take a picture here, it'll show up for 2 seconds or 10 seconds or not at all. You can reset the file number, and then you can adjust contrast, sharpness, and saturation. And that's basically it. Some of the other settings will have less things turned on. Now, if I hit the jump button, it goes over to the other set of settings. In this case, you can turn on the beep, LCD lightness, the shutter volume, auto power off, and you can set the time and date. And you could format the card, and you could set in English. And then the video system is NTSC or PAL. NTSC is for the United States. So that's about it for settings. Now this camera has a lot of accessories. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but this particular fellow who previously owned this purchased a lot of accessories with it. So let me show you some of those. I'll turn it off. It's retracting the lens. The first one I want to show you is this Canon adapter. And there's a beauty ring on here, which you have to take off to use this. And I can understand why the guy bought this. This makes the camera much more bulky, but it has the advantage well, let me back up.
There is a lens cap, and when you put the lens cap on,
this has to be on.
if you put the lens cap on
and you power up the camera, there's a concern that you may damage the lens because it'll try to extend right away, and this lens is a friction fit. So for that reason, and perhaps for that reason only, this first accessory is pretty cool. Let me put this guy on. Which has its own cover. Now if you turn it on, the lens can extend and you can zoom back and forth and it won't crash, and you still have a protective filter, in this case a UV filter, 52mm on the front. That's kind of neat. I'll turn this off again. Now we also had this wide angle adapter. Which is well protected. Got covers on both ends. Friction fit. So this is a 0.48x wide angle lens adapter. And it's threaded for 52mm, which is the same as this filter. Now you could take the filter off and put this on, or in this case, since the outside of the filter is threaded just like the inside of the filter, that would be set up with a wide angle to give you a slightly wider wide angle. Pretty cool. Let me put that away. It also has an adapter for powering this camera or charging the battery in this camera from your car, from a cigarette lighter adapter. It also has this huge power adapter, which one end of it, of course, is the AC plug, and the other end is this little connector that goes in the side for the DC adapter. And indeed, I charged the internal battery with this, and it seems to work just fine. When you use this adapter, you can charge the battery in the camera in 2 hours, which is not too fast. When you use this adapter, which came with this outfit, and here's another battery, now you can charge it in 80 minutes, which is not that much faster, but it works fine. And it's another accessory he had. The compact flash card is 128 megabytes, very small by today's standards. And this particular one was a SanDisk, which is probably a good one. He also had a Canon brand compact flash card. This one is 16 meg. The audio video cable plugs into this port right there with this connector, and you just have black and yellow, which goes to your television set, a very old television set or monitor. And then lastly, there's this weird USB cable. It's USB-A on this end, and it's this digital Canon only selector on this end. But if you wanted to transfer your photos directly to the computer without using an adapter to hold the compact flash card, this would be the way to go. So I took a few pictures here. I don't know if you'll be able to see them. On the screen here very well. There we go. There's a picture I took. And if I use the magnifying glass to zoom in, and then you can use the arrow key to position around to check focus. And I don't know if you can see that on the camera. I'll probably lose focus, but let me try and get this up to the screen. That's my hand shaking, not the... Turn this off. Pretty cool little camera. Now in the video, I'll provide a link to the DP review of this camera, which was published in October of 2000. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.